Today, Lloyd and I are joined by Marcus Gardner and Jack Sanderson from Moonshine Studios. They recently shipped Get Packed on Google Stadia. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
It's nice to be on board.
Lloyd and I have already finished the campaign, but for those out there who are listening who haven't played the game yet, exactly what kind of game would you say that Get Packed is?
So Get Packed is a manic cooperative game which has people joining their friends and family in order to pack as many objects from a van, from a house into a van as quickly as they can. And everything's all physics-based. So you go from environment to environment with a variety of different physics-based mechanics and try and compete with your friends in order to get the best score possible. And it's all based around physics-based comedy and relatable comedy as well. Everyone can relate to moving house and the calamity involved in that. So it's really a game about socializing and having fun with your friends while causing as much destruction and mayhem as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it is definitely manic. As I learned trying to push a car across the street and causing like thousands of dollars of damage that I didn't intend. So it can get a little bit crazy. So what were some of your main influences for this title when you were kind of in the design phase, bringing it up to Google Stadia?
When we were kind of designing the game or brainstorming ideas, this happened well before we partnered up with Stadia, and even before we partnered up with our publisher CodeSync. So we started brainstorming around games. We knew what kind of game we wanted to make. We knew we wanted to make a very sociable game. It started off as a couch co-op type game, but we knew that we wanted it to be online. We wanted it to be not just fun to play, but also fun to watch. This is due to the influences of things like Twitch and YouTube, things that make the game much more valuable in terms of content creation and things like that, because it is so popular these days. So what we wanted to do is brainstorm around these ideas, and some of the key influences of this were games like Overcooked. So Overcooked was very, very popular when it first came out, and it was all based around this time-based gameplay mechanic where players are racing against the clock to try to cook as much things as possible. But the problem was, as the timer kind of got on, went closer down to zero, everything got more panicky and manic, which is great, and we loved that interaction. And it's one of the games we played it together as a team, which inspired us for that kind of time-based chaos as the timer goes down to zero. And you see that in our game as well. But it's not just that. We also used a very physics-based game such as Gang Beasts, which was also a game which CodeSync worked on in terms of the online physics implementation. And it's one of the key reasons why we spoke to CodeSync to begin with, to help us get packed online. And overall, although we did have two main influences, we also looked at other games such as Crawl. I'm not too sure whether you've heard of it, but it's a much smaller game based around ghosts and humans, I'd say. So in Crawl, it's about you can play as up to 4 players, and each player, there are 3 players that start off as a ghost, and 1 player that starts off as a human. The human goes around from room to room, collecting power-ups and gaining levels in order to reach the boss room. And then the 3 ghosts run around possessing monsters and traps in order to kill the human. But when the human gets killed, the ghost that kills him turns into a human himself, and the human previously becomes a ghost, and then you've got this kind of competition, this competitive / corporation vibe going on, where all the ghosts are cooperating in order to kill this poor human, but they always want to try and get the last hit, so they have their own kind of strategies involved, so that they level up as the human and get powerful. So we wanted to get that big mix between competitive and cooperative nature within our game. So you have things such as even in cooperation mode in the campaign, you have at the end, you can compare your scores to see how well you did against your friends. We wanted to add that little bit of extra competition. Who was the employee of the month, and things like that to add that extra bit of spice to it.
Awesome. So you mentioned a little bit ago the fact that you made this game with the idea that it be fun to watch, fun to interact with, Twitch streamers, YouTube streamers. Are there any Stadia exclusive features like crowd play or crowd choice coming to Get Packed in the near future? It seems like Get Packed would be a perfect candidate. So like for crowd play, it'd be easier to get, other people from the stream to join in on my game, or maybe crowd choice, the people could say, this is the next object that the customer wants you to make sure that you grab. So when it highlights that thing down on the bottom, any features like that coming to Get Packed soon?
Yeah, most certainly, and certainly crowd play is one of the main ones we want to add as soon as we can. We're currently just waiting on certain features to become available so that we can start working heavily on it to get that out and integrated into Get Packed as soon as we can. Because I think it's great. Seeing a lot of the streamed content that has been going on already. Taking part in community games, CodeSync run their own community game sessions with Get Packed, and seeing all that happen, it would be great to see the other people get involved really, really quickly and easily, rather than going through the kind of process by jumping in as a friend, etc. The crowd play is a great feature, and I'm really excited to implement that in Get Packed.
Awesome. No, go ahead.
In terms of the other features as well, like I said, we're currently waiting on a number of APIs, etc., to try and allow us to integrate it, and we will certainly try to get all those features in as possible. Because with the Twitch and streaming, a lot of streamers are trying to find new ways to interact with their audience, and like you said, something like having the audience vote on what kind of object they want the client to pick up next, or whether to drop a propane tank down in a certain location or something like that. It could add a bit of competitive spice to the game, and make it much more fun and enjoyable as well for those streaming and watching. It's something we definitely want to add in the future.
No, that would be really cool. I've seen other games where your crowd can either aid you or gang up on you, and it always leads to a bunch of laughs on a stream. So stuff like that would be great. So you're one of the, I guess, the earlier kind of exclusive new content on Stadia, not something that was just a port from another older game that's been around for a while. So coming to Stadia so new or so early in its lifespan, how was development on Stadia? How was it to get how hard was it to get your game running? And what were the development process like for you as a studio working on such a new platform like Stadia?
So when we first started developing the game, we certainly hadn't even reached a point where we were speaking to Stadia or even CodeSync. And it certainly took some time. So when we first created our very early prototypes, it was probably about a year after that when we partnered up with CodeSync, and then possibly another 6 months when we started, where CodeSync got involved in discussions with Google Stadia. So from that perspective, we were already developing for the PC, like majority of games would, and CodeSync were able to get involved with the development with Stadia and add that extra layer on top. So just like with any other platforms, the Stadia have a whole several different APIs that can be integrated into the game, which would like partly involve stuff like crowd play, etc., the achievements, making all the controllers run properly and connect as they should, localization, etc., making it run at the highest end resolutions, and on the Stadia platform itself. And these were done on CodeSync's side, and they did a very good job of it. So it certainly hasn't. They allowed us to focus on the development of the game itself, so that CodeSync could focus on bringing it onto the Stadia platform for us.
So one of our programs. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jack.
One of our actual programmers on the CodeSync side actually recently did a Unite talk on Unity called First on Stadia, How Two Indies Built Get Packed with Unity. So I can obviously send that link across as well. And if anyone wants to check that out, there's a talk with Lucas, one of our programmers, who talks about building Get Packed on Unity for Stadia.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll make sure to put that link in the description on YouTube and in the show notes on the podcast. Why did you end up going with Google Stadia as a platform?
So Stadia offers a number of different benefits, and they certainly gave us a really good opportunity to develop the game as best as we could, while allowing us to get involved with a very new and exciting bit of technology that could potentially be the future of gaming. We all saw platforms such as Netflix and other streaming platforms such as Disney, etc., suddenly becoming so popular, and with it's only inevitable that games could potentially head in towards that direction. And being involved right from the beginning as one of the early exclusive titles on Stadia, it seemed like a very exciting opportunity to do. But like I said previously regarding the popularity of streaming content and YouTube videos and games related content in general, being able to have a platform which can integrate so freely in that kind of space seems like ideal fit for our game.
Definitely. So the game is currently exclusive to Stadia. Do you have any time frame as to when you want to move it to other platforms? And if the answer is yes, are you going to be adding any sort of cross-play or cross-progression so that people can pretty much pick up and go whatever console or platform they're on?
Currently, Get Packed is first playable on Stadia, and yeah, there's no any additional plans at the moment in time.
What was the process like getting the game greenlit on Stadia?
Being part of the PR team and only overhearing it, it was, to be fair, they've been really good to us because we obviously built this relationship very, very early doors. They've been really supportive, and obviously being such a new platform, we were able to reach out, and if there's any questions we had about Stadia specific things or making sure it runs smoothly, they gave us as much support as we needed to make sure the game run as smooth as possible on the Stadia platform. So on our behalf, Google have been great. They've just helped us out whenever we had any blockers or anything like that to just get it running as smooth as possible.
Cool. So going back to the development process a little bit more, has the fact that Stadia is basically a cloud-based platform aided, especially with all the stuff that's happening with lockdowns and COVID and all that? Has it has it been easier to work on this game with multiple people because everything is cloud based? You can basically build your version, send it up to the cloud, have people bug test it, come up with ideas and whatnot. Or was that really not much of a bonus other than the fact that you maybe didn't have to go into the office?
Well, most certainly, we've been using a lot of digital and cloud-based processes in the development of our title, even before we partnered with Google Stadia. I mean, it's become so normal in our life to have some people having to work remotely here and there, and so with COVID-19, when everyone's now working from home. It hasn't been that big a change in life because we have all our content and development stuff all inbuilt in the cloud, so we can all access it from any computer, any device we need to start developing on, and it made it very, very easy. We're not restricted to developing in an office like perhaps larger studios who prefer to be very, very secretive and more secure about their work, having it based locally. For us, with the new technology, we find that with cloud-based technology, we find it's already very secure and perfect for a work environment where not everyone is able to work at exactly the same time or in exactly the same place all the time. In regards to the development on Stadia itself, I mean, while the development itself on Stadia takes advantage of all of the kind of cloud-based solutions that there are. I mean, having our game on Stadia itself allows us to access all of their players to access all of their high-end systems on their cloud software, so that we can run our game on the highest settings with very little latency. Not everyone has access to a very powerful computer, and physics, especially with the amount of physics that our game has, it can be quite stressful on a low-end PC. Of course, we are certainly working on optimization here and there to make the experiences as best as possible. But certainly cloud technology has helped that process a lot.
What's been the biggest challenge so far in getting the game to release?
Probably, I'm not sure. I guess trying to, I guess one of the struggles, I wouldn't really call it a large struggle, but one of the more difficult points is trying to make sure that the game is able to integrate all of the different controllers and support everything as possible as Stadia can provide. As you know, you can access Stadia across any platform or device, your mobile phone, your iPad, or anything like that, and having to make sure that the game can be playable on all of those devices can be a challenge. Luckily, the Stadia has made it easier than it normally would if you were to develop in all those platforms individually.
You should see our QA team's pre-COVID-19 corner of shame, where it's just wall to wall of just any possibility with controller options and pixel phones and everything. So yeah, I think for the QA side and the coding side, that's been the biggest challenge for us, is just thinking of every possibility how Stadia could work and just testing the heck out of everything on every control scheme, and have it be one with the Stadia controller, one with the PlayStation controller, one with the he said Wii U then meant Switch Pro controller. I think that's been the biggest sort of challenge, is just testing every possibility.
Fair enough. Well, the physics in the game they can get pretty crazy. Like I was playing some multiplayer, and we were trying to carry a big object, and we ended up knocking everything in the room off, and things are exploding, and then kegs are flying everywhere, and people are getting knocked down. So how hard was it to develop the physics system for the game? It seems like there are a lot of potential objects, especially if you grab like a bookshelf or something, and all the little tiny books come flying off, or if you're in the store for Black Friday and you break the place where all the fish is and everything's all over the place. Maybe talk a little bit about your physics system. Did you use any canned systems, or did you have to develop everything from scratch on Google Stadia?
So the physics system is certainly, we had a lot of help from Unity with that. Unity's inbuilt physics system is very, very good, and we adapted that to what our needs were. When we created our objects and the way they broke and reacted with the world, we used Unity's physics system, and I coded it in a way so that we could get the kind of behaviors that we wanted, with larger objects that get broken into pieces, and each of the pieces are then interactable as another physics object. It all looks very, very messy when you look into our the hierarchy of our development of objects. They've got lots of different layers, and it certainly, when we first started building the prototype of it, the objects are very simple. We had a simple rectangular table, for example, that just broke into two. But using the physics systems that Unity had, we could quite easily break the objects how we wanted, and use the physics API to send off to explode our objects across the room, or send forces where we wanted. So when we create different physics-based mechanics, such as the grinder or the wrecking ball, a lot of that is based around the physics system that Unity has, plus added a small little layer of programming on top of that to get it the way we want. So it's a big mix, really.
Nice.
So a minute ago you mentioned the iPad. It's not officially out on iOS yet. Are you actually testing on iOS devices already?
I think that would probably be a question for Jack.
I think that was just a mistake from from Marcus in that sense. Yeah, at the moment it's some compatible Samsung phones and Google Pixel phones. Yeah, so that's all we've tested on so far. So
I think I probably mistook. I think I probably used iPad as the generic form of a
Kleenex
tablet device. Because it was the first one available. I always use iPad as tablet. It's interchangeable in my.
Yeah, it's a Kleenex or a Q-tip. Yeah, I get what you're saying. What's your favorite level that you've that's out so far of all of the levels that we have access to right now? Which one of those is your favorite?
Do you want to go first, Marcus?
Yeah, sure. I'd probably like. There are a few levels which I really like. One of them based on how potentially challenging it can be, but also the number of little things that appear in it. So that would be the highway level, where there are lots of trucks driving past, and if you get knocked over, or if the truck stops and it's got a whole load of items in the back, they all spill out, and you can grab those items and pack them. And there's a whole variety of different scenarios. There's one truck which has a whole load of explosives and kegs on it that can cause incredible havoc if you end up stopping it at any point. So it makes the level very, very varied each time. There are also levels where, such as Bank, which I absolutely love. The AI run around causing chaos for the player, and it's their kind of interactions with the players as they're trying to get as much stuff out out of the bank as quickly as possible. That leads to some very funny situations.
I definitely like the highway level. Sorry to jump in. Except for the time where I left a giant turkey in the middle of a highway and ended up causing like $6,000 worth of damage because all the cars kept smashing into it. I thought maybe the turkey would just go fly away, but apparently not. Apparently that wasn't something that happened. But yeah, that level just got crazy super fast. It was a heck of a lot of fun.
I think for me, my favorite is Suburbia 2, when the first time you see a car, because it's just that watching people's first reaction of, I can move the car. I'm going to move the car. I'm going to make this. No, I've not done this. And I think that's my favorite, is watching that. And then usually a keg goes off as well. And I think that's when people sort of, if you got the first level, it's kind of a bit more of a tutorial. This is how you do things. And then it's kind of like introduction of, boom, here's a load of physics. Everything's going to be your worst nightmare now. And I think that's my favorite, just watching the first time people try and move the car. Not only that, I just like dismantling trees and packing trees, even though they're worth nothing.
Nice. So with the content that's included in the game, there's the 4 chapters, but there is a placeholder for chapter 5. Do you have any clue as to when we're going to be getting additional content like chapter 5? And are you planning any additional content, maybe some other modes or other things that you want to bring to the game on Google Stadia?
I think at the moment in time, in terms of the chapter 5, we're just putting some quality of life updates at the moment in time and sort of getting that smooth. And then we'll look at releasing chapter 5. But I know obviously the Moonshine guys have been working hard with that already. So haven't got an official date, but a little bit later in a year, we'll definitely have the other chapters out. And there are additional content coming based on player feedback.
Fantastic. So based on what shipped with the game, is there anything that you'd like to change if you could go back in time prior to launch about the game as it is right now?
I guess it could be quite an open-ended question. I mean, as every developer looks back on what they've released and thinks, oh, that should be changed. I could do this better and things like that. And certainly we're currently making a lot, like Jack said, we're making a lot of life improvements to the game already. We're currently working on a few different patches to get those changes across based on player feedback. And then, of course, on top of that, we are working on the extra content as well. So in terms of the actual the gameplay itself, I think we created the game and the way the players interact with the physics playground exactly the way we want it. And the only thing we would have liked to do really is had been able to have extra bits of content available on launch. I mean, we had plans for some very interesting modes that we were experimenting with early on that may or may not make it into the game in the future. But we experimented a lot with the game when we did it. We tried lots of different things, such as having each individual player's score on the UI as you're playing, so you can visibly see your player, the other players, and whether or not you're beating them. But then, of course, we have to go back and see to make sure that the screen isn't too cluttered and things like that.
Right.
The client system where you have bonus objects appear, that was also quite different at first. I think we changed it to something a bit more, certainly a bit more useful than the previous iteration was. And I certainly think it's come a long way since our first developments, and certainly for the better.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I think that's all I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close this one out?
I think on this side, aside from actually pushing our own Twitch channel, we actually do run community nights on our Discord on Wednesdays, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays at twitch.tv/codesync. Cal, our community video content guy, plays various games, but we always start off with a few Get Packed sessions as well. So if anyone is curious, feel free to jump in and have a look at that and see what the community's up to with Get Packed.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Marcus and Jack, for joining us. Where can people find out more information about Get Packed, not including your Discord that you just talked about?
Twitter, play Get Packed is probably the best way, or we've got on the website playgetpacked.com.